Welcome to today's Explainer. So we're tackling a subject today that affects literally every single one of us, priority management. Now let's start with that totally universal feeling of time scarcity. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about, right? It's when you've been running around just seemingly busy all day long and you are completely exhausted by dinner time. But when you look back, you realize you didn't actually accomplish anything of real value. It's this uniquely modern frustration where we're constantly busy, yet somehow never productive. Well, today we are unpacking an incredibly effective framework to solve exactly that. It's called the Big Rock Method. And to do this, we're basically going to run a little virtual science experiment about how we schedule our time. We're going to figure out why some days feel immensely rewarding and intentional, while others, they just seem to evaporate into thin air while we're staring at our screens.
Okay, let's dive into this by clarifying exactly what we're trying to fix here. Our primary objective is to systematically separate our mandatory have-tos from our optional want-tos. Sounds simple on paper, right? But it is remarkably difficult in practice. And why is this so hard? Well, because human psychology actually works actively against us here. Our brains are hardwired to struggle with delayed gratification. We genuinely crave that quick, easy dopamine hit you get from crossing off small, simple tasks. So our minds literally start playing tricks on us. Have you ever suddenly felt this overwhelming, urgent need to completely reorganize your desk or clean your room right when you were supposed to start a massive research paper? Yeah, that is your brain disguising a low-value want-to as a critical have-to, just so it can procrastinate on the heavy lifting. If we don't learn how to ruthlessly separate what actually matters from what simply feels productive in the moment, we just end up living in this constant state of stressed-out catch-up.
To really get a grip on how to fix this, we need a tangible way to visualize our time. So enter the jar of life. Think about a large, clear glass jar sitting squarely on a table. This is our virtual science experiment, and it's the ultimate physical metaphor for a single day in your life. It has very clear physical boundaries, just like your day has exactly 24 hours. You cannot stretch the glass, and you absolutely cannot manufacture a 25th hour. No way, no matter how much coffee you drink. What's actually wild here is that when researchers break down human time use, once you subtract sleeping, eating, commuting, and basic hygiene, the average person is really only working with about 4 to 5 hours of true discretionary time a day. That jar, it's actually a lot smaller than we like to admit. So whatever activities we plan to tackle today, they must fit entirely inside this strict, unyielding container.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact ingredients we are trying to cram into that finite space. We basically have two main categories. First up are our big rocks. These are the absolute must-dos. They are heavy, they're substantial, and totally non-negotiable. We're talking things like attending classes, completing major homework assignments, and getting proper rest. Actually, scratch that. I want to pause on sleep for a second, because sleep is a massive big rock that almost everyone tries to treat as sand. We constantly try to shave off an hour of sleep here or an hour there to make room for other fun things, but eventually, doing that just cracks the glass of the jar entirely. On the flip side, we have the pebbles and sand. These represent the lighter, optional activities. Think, scrolling through social media, playing video games, or hanging out with friends. They're fun. They add great flavor to life for sure, but they are fine, loose, and entirely optional when you compare them to the sheer weight of those heavy rocks.
Let's run a scenario and see what happens when we get the order of these ingredients wrong. Imagine waking up on a weekend and just letting the sand pour in first. You spend the morning gaming, maybe you group text your friends for a few hours, you fall completely down a YouTube rabbit hole, and before you know it, that jar is filling up extremely fast. The sand is piling high. Then suddenly it hits you. It's 11 p.m. You have that massive critical homework assignment due tomorrow morning, and you still need to actually sleep. We all know that visceral pit in your stomach panic, right? So you start frantically trying to jam those massive big rocks of homework and sleep in on top of the mountain of sand. But it's an absolute disaster. The jar is overflowing. By prioritizing the easy, fun stuff first, you've created a literal, physical impossibility. Your mandatory obligations simply have nowhere to go.
So the crucial point is captured perfectly in this fundamental truth. If you put the sand in first, there is absolutely no room for the big rocks. This isn't just some quirky metaphor. It is the golden rule of time management. It actually ties directly into Parkinson's law, which dictates that work naturally expands to fill the time available for its completion. Well, guess what? The exact same thing is true for distractions. If you give the sand of trivial tasks and digital distractions an inch, it will expand to fill every single millimeter of your available schedule. The exact order in which we schedule our day is quite literally the only thing that dictates our success or failure. The physical capacity of the day doesn't change, right? So if we let the tiny distractions settle at the base of our routine, they will inevitably block out the massive, important things that actually keep our lives moving forward.
Let's move to practical application and see how this builds into something you can actually fix today. It's time to take this framework and put it into immediate practice with a big rock challenge. I highly recommend physically mapping this out for yourself. Grab a piece of paper and draw your own jar. But wait, before you write a single thing inside it, pause. Deliberately identify your big rocks for the day. A quick tip for doing this? Your true big rocks are almost always the tasks that move you forward long-term, not just the loudest, easiest, or most urgent notifications buzzing on your phone. Write those heavy, long-term priorities at the very bottom of your drawn jar. By placing them there first, you guarantee they get the time and energy they actually require. Only after those heavy, mandatory tasks are securely scheduled can you even begin to think about letting the sand of social time or gaming filter into the empty spaces around them.
Which brings us to the absolute most important question of this entire explainer. What are your big rocks for today? Take a real moment to think about the things you absolutely cannot compromise on. Identify them, respect how much time they actually take to complete, and make the conscious, proactive choice to place them in your schedule first. I challenge you to try living just one single day this way. You will be amazed at how magically the sand still finds a way to fit in perfectly around the edges without overflowing. But remember this, if you don't actively choose to schedule your big rocks, the world will happily fill your jar with its sand. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there and conquer your day.